gentlemen, and welcome to the 4th edition of the Hotelier India GM Summit. I'm Sumisha Gilotra, editor of Architect and Interiors India, a sister publication of Hotelier India, India's leading publication, a hospitality magazine from the ITP Media Group. We are most delighted to host one of the most prestigious conferences in the hospitality world, the GM Summit, dedicated to all those dynamic GMs who keep their hotels running and shining. The hospitality industry has been one of the worst hit in the recent pandemic. And if there was one person who took it completely upon themselves to find solutions and motivate their teams and bounce back, it was the GM of every hotel. The captains who not just made sure their ships sailed through smoothly, but also shone with their flags flying high. This evening celebrates the GMs in all their glory. Let's all put our hands together for the GM Summit 2023 Western Region by Hotelier India. I would like to start the evening by calling upon Mr. Bibhor Srivastav, Managing Director of ITP Media India, to give the welcome address. Can we please have Bibhor on stage?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think every time when I stand in front of you to a hall full of its capacity, it's overwhelming and very heartwarming. If you remember and if you jog your memories, this week, last year, where we were, and today where we are, I think we really bounced back as a collaborated approach, and you really shine. So give yourself a huge round of applause. Louder. Thank you. It's a bit of a warm-up, and I think what we believe and what we do has to be neutral, has to be credible, and has to be at the knowledge sharing at the highest level. Hotelier India, with your love and support and confidence, has moved over the years and has become as one of the most celebrated industry magazines for the country. And I think I have to really thank this amazing hotel led by our very dear friend Varun Chibba. Give him a hand, he's right in front of me. And all the lovely associates, Chef Paul Kinney, Pooja, and rest of the entire team who tirelessly work together and has become probably one of the most important and busy hotel in this city. So well done, Varun. I will obviously borrow Varun on stage with me. I was also thinking, at this stage where this industry, you've broken the ceiling when it comes to ADR, all the average room rate. I don't want to get into the jargon because there's a hotelier is going to talk a lot about it. I think, and this hotel itself, Varun was talking, obviously, Warren, I'm not going to reveal the numbers, but there are very handsome numbers. So I think that's where the industry is poised to. I think as general managers, as the industry, it's time for us to look back and to create a succession plan, create a second line of leadership. And I think we are phenomenally blessed to have some amazing people in this hall and outside the rest of the country, very talented people. The second thing I think is the ESG, which has become the buzzword. And yesterday, I was in one of the events by IHCL called Pathya, which is something very enlightening and very enriching for me, to listen to a conversation of a great panel where they talked about, and they're responsibly looking ESG as a space, as a segment to invest and harness the potential and really help you in the bottom line and do exceedingly well. And I want to hear for our partners, amazing brands that give you incredible cutting-edge solutions like Groha, Tushar, thank you. BMW, you're obviously the choice of many, and Nestle, who can forget, Hotellogics, empowering the cutting-edge technology, digitization, and so many things, and Snapit. I think these are incredible partners. And another big thing that happened, my friend Zubin is sitting here, so you can give a huge round of applause to Radisson as they complete 25 years. What glorious, milestone. And let me get up, now Varun on stage with me. Varun, would you please join me? People know him. He's the general manager of this property, a great hotelier, and very kind-hearted. All yours.
Welcome to St. Regis, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see this galaxy here. And Vibhor, thank you for giving us this opportunity. A lot of you who have worked with me a long time know that I I enjoy my work, and I think fun at work is a big deal for me. So, Vibhor, on a lighter note, last year when we were planning this up north, we were in conversation, but it didn't go through because my then hotel, a great hotel that I really, really love, couldn't have a BMW car up at the ballroom. So I've come to a hotel now, Vibhor, where we can have a BMW car at the ballroom. So thank you very much, guys, and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.
As usual, in your this thing, you obviously forget, and I want to really bring another great brand who's associated with us, Havells. I mean, for your lighting needs, they are really remarkable in terms of the kind of product line, and I think in terms of being the energy guzzler that we look at HVAC and lighting, I think you have solutions. They have a phenomenal team here with me and also a display booth. Please take your time to go and be with them. So I won't take your time. And thank you very much for listening to us and listening to our stories. I think the stories that we have built together. And I would like to introduce and welcome Tushar Verma, the head of projects at Lixil Group, and listen to what Grohe brings to you this evening.
Varun just said stars. I think galaxy, and I'll just say stars. I see a room full of stars, and that's what you all are. So big applause to all of you, please. I represent Lixil. That's my parent group, and some popular brands under it, which is Grohe and American Standard. We'll talk about it, and I'll also talk about some bathrooms. I'll take you through some presentations. We'll understand about some products. I lost you all, right? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm absolutely not going to do that. I think you all know what Grohe is, and you guys have had a stellar year, and I wish you that you have a stellar year on year and year as we progress. We've made up a small AV for you guys so that you can have a look at it and understand what we are doing for the hospitality industry and enjoy it. The AV, please. Thank you.
Welcome to the world of Lixil, a brand that boasts of a legacy spanning over 100 years, steeped in innovation and technology. Where our iconic brands Grohe and American Standard have crafted stunning bath spaces around the world. The hospitality industry in India is ever growing, and we are excited to be present at many more of India's finest properties. As India looks forward to a new age in developing and enriching the hospitality industry, we at Lixil look forward to an exciting future with you.
So guys, this was very nicely put up, but we are really in the relieving business, and we ensure that you have a great time when you are in a hotel. So, and I always say that hotels are the places where you make memories, and we just help you make them more memorable. Thank you. My team is here, and if you want to chat with us, have any discussion about it, please come and walk up to us and have a discussion. We'll be very happy to have that. Thank you and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tushar. That was definitely very interesting. And we do look forward to visiting a lot of hotels with Grohe in there. And now it's time for the most important part of the evening, the panel discussion. The first panel discussion, which will be moderated by Mahesh Iyer, CEO, Carnation Hotels, is on innovation in a disruptive landscape. This discussion aims to answer a very critical question. What is it that one disruption that has impacted hotels the most in the past and will do so in the future? As we look forward to your innovative ideas, let's welcome on stage our esteemed panelists. Please step on stage as I call out your name. Mr. Gaurav Singh, Market Vice President, South and East India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka Marriott International. Mr. Lokesh Sabharwal, Regional Vice President, Operations India and Southwest Asia, Hyatt. Parveen Chandar, Executive Vice President, Sales and Marketing, IHCL. Ranjan Malekar, Senior Regional Director, Operations India, Hilton. Mr. Sharad Puri, Senior Vice President, Sales and Distribution, the Leela Palaces Hotel and Resorts. And Mr. Yazad Marfatia, Regional Director, Sales and Marketing, the Park Hotels. And of course, our moderator for the panel, Mr. Mahesh Iyer, CEO, Carnation Hotels.
So do we need an introduction and waste our time introducing each one of them? Because everybody knows each other. What do you think? It's all written there. So let's start directly with what the topic is. I think two big words in the topic, which is disruptive landscape and innovation. So disruption and innovation, two heavy words, right? So let's simplify it for the audience. Disruption happens in many forms, be it environment, be it competitive environment, business model, distribution, sales, customers are changing, talent is changing. And innovation, of course, has many forms from incremental to disruptive, all of it. So I just want to start by asking a simple question. In the past 10 years, one disruption that you think has impacted the hospitality industry the most, according to you, and your company. So we'll go this way, and then next we will come that way, so that everybody gets an answer. Otherwise, by the time he reaches there, he'll say everybody said everything. Yeah, let's start with you, Gaurav.
Good evening, team, and everyone in the room. Mahesh, to your question, I guess what you're asking is one disruption in the last 10 years, right?
10 years, yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
just pick and choose. There are many. Don't use COVID, because I think then everybody will say COVID. Of course, COVID was a big disruption, apart from COVID.
yeah, to me, disruption and innovation both kind of go hand in hand. But in the sense of keeping to your question, I believe that the disruption which is happening now is bigger than what has happened in the last 10 years, and that is to do with how we are looking at talent today. And I think that's taking shape over the last 2-3 years, and courtesy COVID, and even a little before COVID, it started to take shape. And what's happening in the industry with the shortage that we have, especially for skilled talent, and the need for it in the coming years, given the growth that most of our companies have, everyone on the panel here, everyone in the room, is seeing considerable growth in their business, and that the pipeline of talent in the country at this point of time is quite.
So you're saying the pipeline is not matching with the hotel pipeline? That's what you're saying. The talent pipeline is not matching with the hotel pipeline.
That's just the tip of the iceberg, I guess.
Okay.
I think it's a lot more than just the pipeline.
Okay, sure.
I don't want to take up everyone's time, but what I do want to say is that over the next few years, I think talent will continue to disrupt us, and we'll have to change our way in how we operate.
So we'll
for
take
us
some
to
time off to discuss what you guys are doing separately, specifically on talent, because I think that's a big issue across the board, and everybody's facing the same challenge. So talent is the disruption in how talent acquisition, retention, all of this.
So, good evening, everyone. Mahesh, I think I'll just take on from what Gaurav said. I think talent is probably the biggest, but talent not just in terms of numbers, but really the skill set, the experience, and what's needed to operate in the environment today, what the business needs are, and the ability to actually further develop talent. Right? I think what's missing over the last few years is the experience for certain positions, particularly in the supervisory and middle management levels, have really shrunk. And perhaps we're really busy on operations or day-to-day. What we're not really looking at is how do you look forward from a business perspective, developing people, but also the needs of the customer, which have today really moved towards experiences and far more a higher degree of awareness of what they want. So how do we cater to that, being in that business today? I think that's probably, it all sums up.
You said again about talent, but also at a specific level, there is a gap because also the customer is changing with expectation of what the hotel
Absolutely.
is. Okay, Praveen,
Thanks.
your view?
So, Mahesh, for me, I think one of the biggest disruption, of course, COVID was the disruption. But if you look at beyond that, I think technology is both an enabler and a big disruptor. And why I put it in both buckets is because technology will continue to evolve and would also change our business model. So the way our customer reaches us today, the way people perceive business to happen, and we've seen that happening with certain newer products coming in. And you would see that that speed will become much faster. So it will disrupt various parts of our business, right? From distribution to the way the customer will reach us, the way people would be able to scale up a business model far more faster than it was before. So I think technology will continue to create more disruptors which will come our way.
Yeah, so you're saying technology across the value chain, even development, design, operations, sales, it'll disrupt it across the value chain of the hospitality industry.
And the people who are not going to be able to embrace or keep up with time with technology would actually get impacted far more faster. So it's actually, that's the other part of it. So if you are not able to kind of be agile and change yourself, that's going to impact.
Okay, good, okay. Ranjan?
So Mahesh, I'm gonna go with the flow with talent, but I'll say that the shortage of talent is obviously a problem. But I think what's coming to the fore is the desirability of the hospitality industry. We've kind of known this for a long time that there are several things that go against hospitality when it comes to sort of the pecking order of where would you like to work. And we've ignored it for far too long. So I think if we don't wake up now and do something drastic, then the problem is really going to become a bigger pandemic than even COVID was. So that's what I think.
Talent seems to be your
Absolutely.
big challenge across
For sure.
Sharad?
I think the discussion on talent in panel discussions like this has been happening for
a long time. So we'll come to the next one as to what you guys are doing specifically.
and,
So I don't want to just
I think one of the big disruptors is and will be sustainability, and and I think that's it's not only for profit or to save costs, but I think it's and responsibility, but also from a guest perspective. A lot of guests are expecting. There are a lot of guests who would say, "No, I don't want to drink, water from a plastic bottle." So it's a guest
by the
demand.
way, it's happening even at the employee end. Right? A lot of employees care about what they're doing. So I'm seeing that side also, not just the customer. Yeah. And then you've got the regulatory frameworks will also come.
Absolutely. So I think that's a big and
sustainability.
A lot of work will need to be done on that. I know a lot of work. Hotel companies we all have done a lot of work, but I think we need to move into the next level.
Yeah, just going beyond the single-use plastics and many other
and we have to go beyond regulations. Yeah. Because there is so much, and especially in luxury, there is so much that one can do and so much one may not do.
True. Yazad?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'll go with alternate accommodation, where it's going to be a big disruption, where demand is growing for homestays and Airbnb. So that's going to be a segment where it's definitely going to affect our business.
That's true, because Airbnb is $75 billion and all hotels put together are not even reached there, right?
So the needs and the requirements, the likes, dislikes of the customers are changing. There's the millennials and the Gen Zers, their requirements are very different, and price is not an issue today. So yeah, that's going to be a major differentiator.
Excellent. So let's dive right into what you guys are doing specifically to address these points, because I think in most panel discussions, we discuss the problem and then don't come to what you exactly are doing in each of your places. So let's look at, Vibhor asked me, don't use this word COVID, but I'm going to just say because of history, but I'm just saying this, that COVID happened and there is some learnings that have happened, and it's some way in a blessing in disguise for certain things that we were doing. So quickly, what are the things that you learned in COVID that you will continue to do for the next, say, 5 years, whatever, 10 years? What are you retaining in your companies that you learned in COVID?
I'll start.
Yeah, you start. We'll go reverse. Yeah.
So yeah, this situation was very strange and different, where the revenues were suddenly zero for certain months and hotels were shut or operating on a very skeleton, but yeah, it took the hotels back on the drawing board to understand and rationalize cost, enhance efficiencies, spend in engineering facilities to save certain percentage. And I think that's a good learning, because we all thought that what we were doing pre-COVID was we were doing the best. But when COVID hit, we actually realized that we could improve the efficiencies, we could improve the margins, and that's a big learning. And it's going to continue, I think, going forward.
So can I say inverted commas, less staffing? That's what you mean?
No, staffing is not the only thing. I think there are a lot of other areas, your fixed cost and other things. like I said, spending on engineering facilities which will enhance your profitability in future, all those things.
Okay, Sharad?
Yeah, staffing is one of them.
Yeah, so specifically, if there is some specific, because I think there are a whole lot of general managers who are there, maybe there is a learning for all of them. If 2 or 3 takeaways that they get, I can do this in my hotel. So it's just a, look at it from that perspective and say something that you've taken and still continuing to do.
So I think it taught us that each segment or each type of guest or each type of business is very important. Because a lot of hotels reach a stage to say, let me not take this business is not important, let me not look at weddings, let me not look at too much of corporate business, let me not. So I think that mix, and overall, I feel from a behavioral point, it's the flexibility that I think a lot of us as individuals have got, and that behavior will reflect into what we do every day. In our business.
So you're saying de-risking business by having much more
no,
flexibility
to have
in segments?
Acceptance and to have a clear focus on each segment and to have acceptance. And now we realize that how important the high-end Indian luxury consumer is, which we didn't realize because the luxury Indian consumer didn't use hotels as much in India because they were going overseas. And I think now we've all realized what the capacity or the potential of the Indian consumer is, and the rates that all the cities have seen over the last 1.5 years are primarily Indian guests.
Sure. So you're saying there are certain segments you didn't look earlier. Now you're saying it is part of your plan to address these, get them and maybe more and nurture them and
and each segment is like a baby. You can't maybe one segment does well now. Doesn't mean that all others are ignored.
So specifically for Leela, you're saying Indian luxury traveler? Is that the segment that you're saying it's a big segment?
That's a big, and I'm for everybody else, I think there is a large chunk of our guests so far have been Indian guests, which also the Indian guest behavior and their what they would expect in a hotel.
So this whole service design behind it.
The service design. And how they book, what distribution channels, very, very, very digital, surprisingly digital, more digital than we all think.
Yeah, true. Ranjit?
Yeah, so I think it's not that it never used to happen before, but I feel that hotels have gotten much better at sweating the asset. So COVID really, put hotels in a situation where it was about making ends meet. And a few lakhs more would have often meant a GOP, even though it was a thin one versus a GOL, and there was a lot of pressure to ensure that you're sort of keeping your neck above the water. And hotels have started to realize that, we can do a lot more with the infrastructure that we have, with the people that we have. So whether it is, delivery of food, which is not something that a lot of hotels did in the past. Some hotels were doing it, sure. But I think during COVID, everybody realized that, we can do this. We've got partners who can do it, or we've got a fleet of cars, or if necessary, if the demand is big enough, we can invest a little more tie-up with Page, Dunzo, whatever, but let's try to make this work. So that's become a very useful revenue stream that we don't see. Of course, it's tapered off a little compared to COVID, but that's something that we intend to continue driving for. Some of our hotels have gotten into institutional catering. So they're providing meals for multinational companies who are trying to encourage their team members to come back to work. So it's those little opportunities that have always existed, but hotels never really sort of felt the need to drill down and explore for those little nuggets that were out there. But COVID has sort of taught them some important lessons, and I think it's going to continue moving ahead.
Yeah, so you're saying that maximizing the asset, meaning other streams of revenue apart from, but
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. If your hotels start doing extremely well and start doing good rates, will your focus start diluting in that? And it'll go back to, because what I'm asking is, you see all the big buffets back, you see everything back. So I'm just saying, did we learn or we just forgot? So I'm just, specifically I'm asking this question because you have to, if you have gone through a crisis, you learn something and hold that back in stone and see what you can do better, right? So that's the question I wanted to ask, that if all things come back, will you lose, or how are you structured to ensure that this remains?
So I think that's where sort of the checks and balances are in place. Like there is, I'm not suggesting that a general manager would drop the ball when he's realized that there is an income stream to be had, but just because it's gotten busy, he'll say, now I don't need to do that anymore. But just in case that were to happen, I think there are above property resources that know that this revenue stream exists, whether it's tagged onto room service or if somebody's been doing banqueting through this stream. And there's, even if we fail, there's another stakeholder, which is the owner, who's like, but I know you made 3 crores from that catering, so what's happening to that?
True.
So I think it's here to stay.
I would say, Mahesh, 3 things. One is how to keep your fixed cost base low, because I think that's one of the lessons that we've all learned, and we need to continue work on it. Nobody expected, in the Taj, we used to have something called as a red book, which prepared us for disruption.
Correct.
But we never prepared ourselves for disruption beyond a week. And this was for months, right? So I think what's most important is how to continuously keep your cost at the right level, which means the fixed cost at the right base. I think that's one. Secondly, is going to be, very interestingly, we saw that hotels, companies which had adequate amount of leisure business were able to bounce back faster. So in the past, we never felt that there was a need to have a good mix of leisure and business. So I think that's one thing which everybody is keeping in mind to go ahead. And the third thing is agility, which means how quickly you can change gears in times of crisis. Again, we've seen that people who've been able to do it faster have been able to kind of work much better, having newer business models, doing other things to keep surviving. And no business teaches you how to manage with zero money, right? So if you don't have any income, how are you going to pay for your people? And also in India, we are still a society where all of us kept our employees on board and paid them the full salary. So I think the speed of execution is the third thing. So these are the 3 things I would talk about.
So just asking a little bit more, how do you build then agility in the system, that everybody has to think agile, so work agile, all of that? How do you build that as a culture? What do you do to ensure that your company is still agile, right? Because once the numbers start going up and the margins start going up, then you will forget about what happened and what you learned. So how do you, from a culture point of view, how do you build that?
So I think agility is more to do with, kind of rewarding people who have much more faster responses and actually nudging the team to continuously keep thinking. And, at least I can give you an example of our company. We were first ones to come up with new business models when business was completely getting shut down, and those actually have paid off, and those business models continue to grow post-pandemic. At the same time, giving empowerment where it belongs is very important. Most companies are extremely hierarchical. So what happens is that you need to go 3 or 4 levels up to take a decision, and that slows down agility. The moment you build in a culture where you're empowering people to take decisions faster and they take it a la minute based on the facts, it works. So I think these are 2 or 3 things which I would say that helps you to be more agile.
I like the fact that you said about 2 or 3 business models you created in that crisis. Do you want to just give a little bit of how it originated and what it's doing now? So get a sense of that.
So in the first 2 months of COVID, when everybody was sitting at home, we realized that it's not going to work, and we need to do something, because we had people who were working in hotels and so on. So we decided to come up with Qmin as a home delivery model. And we worked with our own company called Tata Digital, and we were able to create an app, and it was completely it was out of the box thinking, but we were able to do that within 3 months. And today, Qmin continues to be a good home delivery app. And in fact, not just that, we've actually extended the brand into QSR, and we're looking at back-end integration and growing that business model. So we also realize there is always excess capacity in all our hotels with respect to food and beverage. And if you connect it to an app, you can actually have food being delivered to people's places. So that was one. And similarly, Ama, which came up as a homestay concept, today we have about 120 which are signed and in development.
Sorry, did COVID force you to look at it?
Yes, 100%. So I remember the first Ama was opened right in Mud Island, right next to the Taj Lands End. I used to be the GM of that hotel at that time. And we were full for the first 3 months because people wanted to get away. And then we realized that there is a market for it. And sometimes it's always the need which kind of creates the demand. So that's what happened. And then in the future, we continue to nurture that kind of demand, and it's become a trend to go and stay in homestays. So I think these were some of the disruptors which helped us to change.
So that you have now created separate, almost separate companies, I would say, or verticals to ensure that this model kind of sustains, and it's not just for the COVID, and then you've created this. Good. Lokesh, from your perspective?
Well, I think from a business perspective, everyone's spoken about a few things, and it was no different for us. But I think the one thing for Hyatt, which is something which is now completely a part and parcel of what we do, is empathy. The world of care, which is really the core for the company, how we work, how we operate, it's a lot more than just ESG, but empathy at the heart and core of everything that we do. For our colleagues, for our customers, for our partners. I think that's something which binds each and every initiative in the company now, from just the way we think.
That originated?
It was always there. I think what it was reinforced significantly in everything that we do and how we communicate and how we actually talk to the world about it. So COVID, one of the things which absolutely sticks out is a program which we launched, which is called Rise High. Global program whereby we are working with youth. Please pardon me if I use the word disadvantaged. There's no disrespect meant, but really...
Differently abled.
No. Just not have the... From a social and economic perspective as well, not just differently abled, coming from difficult environments. So in India, for us, it's youth in the age of 18 to 24. Globally, legislation permitting between 16 and 24, whereby these youth are working with us in different hotels, training with us as an internship program, different departments, and then being absorbed. We today, as we said, very proud to say we've got about almost 500 youth between who are training and who are now colleagues working full-time with us. And the intent is globally for us to be about 10,000 people by 2025.
So what you're saying is from COVID, you've taken a mindset change, which is being more empathetic, and then taking that to the hilt, meaning taking it in all the things that you do. And second, this being much nicer and much
I think just being more empathetic and just thinking of, and from a business, whether it's whom stays with us, whom we work with, whom we do business with.
That's a great change too, in a company which can sustain a cultural change that happened.
So I would, for me, I think that's something which will definitely is through everything in Hyatt today.
I think, Mahesh, everyone's spoken about a few things, and I'm going to use that to recap it in a way. I know it's your job, but I'm just going to
make my job easier. Okay,
yeah, I'm going to try. Yeah, I don't know if I'll make it easier, but what everyone said was that we kind of learned some things to reduce our costs and keep it at the base, or get some returns out of savings in our costs. We also spoke, and some of us said that we did things to enhance our revenues further, found new streams. Spoke about looking at our resources, such as our human resource, and being empathetic or having a stronger culture. I think all of that happened in all companies in one way or the other. One of the things that I feel strongly for in what's taken shape due to COVID and is going to remain over time is that all of us have learned to adapt. And I think Praveen touched on it a little in terms of how new things came about. But I don't want to just talk about the adaptability in terms of what was brought onto the table by the fact that COVID was on us. I want to use a few examples, and I think over the last 6 months or let's say a year, most companies have gone into, say, pushing the revenue streams, pushing the ADRs, and seeing how we can get more out of the same business, maybe different segmentation, and that was touched. But at the same time, I don't think we did that pre-COVID the way we've done it today. We weren't aggressive enough. We would go and say, listen, inflation is 6% or 7% or whatever it was, and you'd kind of peg yourself around that and say, that sort of growth is good. And we'd pat ourselves and say we've achieved something. I think what's happened now is that those growths, to our owners, and we have, one of our bigger partners in Chalet, Mr. Sethi is here, Rajneesh is here, and they'll tell you, if you speak to them today, if you were to come with that sort of a growth and say that's your percentage growth on your budget, or that's your percentage growth in your savings, it's not going to fly. And I don't think it's going to fly with anyone. And what we've learned during this process of COVID today, I believe, is the ability to take larger risks, the ability to push ourselves beyond the normal. You would generally go and say, okay, you're doing an RFP, 5% growth on my room rate, I'm very happy.
So what is it now, 50?
Well, I won't say that. We've got some there, pretty close.
Sanjay to decide it
But I can tell you that we've had some corporates go upwards of 40%. We've had a large amount go upwards of 25%. And again, there's no right answer to this. It's again, where are you in the cycle? What's the kind of business you're doing?
Yeah, because we have not reached the era of 2007-8, so there is huge scope to still go. I think so, and it has to be increased at 40% every year to reach that 2007-8 rates.
I don't know where that data comes from, because if I look at my data, we've reached there. So we've crossed that, but it may be different for different companies. So I'm going to
India average.
Yeah, possibly. Then that means some of our partners need to do better, I guess. So I'm going to just say that one of the biggest learnings that we've had is to risk ourselves in a larger way towards making the change and adapting to the change faster.
Sure. So let's look at the biggest point of disruption, and that is a pain point for everybody on what you're doing on two big things about talent, right? So there are two parts to this. One is talent sourcing. The other part is, of course, engagement and retention. So quickly, if some of you, I think we'll not have time to discuss all the disruptions. So I think we should split that between two or three. Who would like to go with Sharad? Would you want to go with the talent?
We follow the ADR strategy, which is acquisition, development, and retention of people. So I'm talking of people, the ADR in people as well.
Sure.
And there's a lot of work that we've done at Leela to acquire, to develop, to retain, and a lot of, as I said in the beginning, this discussion has been on for many years, but really there are two, in the last 50 years or so, there are two big changes that have happened. One was the Oberoi School, and then, followed by other management training programs, and the other one, I think big one, has been the ISH in Delhi. And we are very proud to partner a lot with ISH. We do a lot of our executive development programs with ISH, and that becomes a part of our development of the ADR. The very important bit in that, I think from people point, is also being genuine, and that's where we lose out a lot of times.
I want to help the GMs here specifically on acquisition, right? That's the biggest pain point for you. So you said two things about acquisition. The schools, is there anything else that...
Schools, and I think we look at two other things. One is we look at not just hotel schools, we look at other schools. So, okay. Most of the IHMs, the hotel schools, I think more than 50% of the people who pass out from those colleges don't join hotels.
True.
Can we look at engineering colleges? So there are 40% engineers in the country who are not employed. So can we look at engineering colleges to say what we can get out of engineering colleges?
Specifically, Leela, have you looked at engineering colleges?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
So that your
we have, and I'll tell you, we've looked at engineering college. We've looked at a lot of other institutions, not the regular, the ones which were training for flying school, and we've looked at a lot of those. We've looked at a lot of graduate colleges, and some good people we've got out of those schools. And then what we are also doing is, we started another program called the LLDP, where people having worked anywhere for 1 year, we take them into a development program for 1.5 years, and they go in as executives. And those are the ones who probably have not been to a hotel school and can grow into a hotel in mainstream operations.
Okay, Gaurav?
Mahesh, I'm going to stick with the acquisition piece. A few things that Marriott has done, and a few things that we continue to believe that we need to do more of. We've sort of to Sharat's point, gone beyond just the hotel school. We've gone into skilling right from grassroots level in a uneducated form as well. So if you were to look at some of our hotels that we've opened recently, case in point, a Courtyard in Shillong, we opened another hotel, a Westin in the Himalayas. In these places, we hired local resources, almost a batch of 30 to 40 of them, and we've skilled them from grassroots to go into the system and do specific job roles in the hotel. So they're not hoteliers, they're not hotel school graduates, they're not even graduates, but they're locals from the community, which we're helping the community to build into our ecosystem of branded hotels. Now, this was done by many hotel companies, which are local Indian companies and at various levels, but it wasn't done by international companies. So that's a change in our mindset, I think. The second piece that we continue to work on is to look at gigs, which are part-time jobs. So don't have full-time 9-hour shifts or have jobs specified to a particular task. We are even looking at what is called internally within Marriott iJobs, which essentially means that we have an employee who's identified to do more than 5-6 tasks at one time. So he's not given a department. He could be on a shift today as a bartender and tomorrow in housekeeping. So it's again it's a very unique space.
This has been discussed, I think, for long time from many times. Actually, and when you go to a hotel, you don't actually see that happening, right? That
we've implemented it.
So two questions to you, because I want them, all the GMs here to learn that this is possible, because I think many have a mindset that no, this is a specific department, it cannot go through that. So in a specific hotel, what percentage of the frontline staff can move around from one place to another?
So as of now, we haven't reached that percentage, and I'll tell you why. What has happened is this change has also come about with COVID, and with the coming out of COVID, what we've done is identified resources and started to work on this. At this point of time, I may not have the right number, but it'll be in the single digits. It'll be really low single digits.
But going forward, say next 5
years. But I think going forward, we want at least 10% of our frontline staff to be able to do multitask work on a day-to-day basis. And I don't want to just keep it at multitasking. What I did touch upon is gigs, which essentially means that if I need a person to do on a Saturday in a particular banquet, a 4-hour bartending job, then I can hire that for that 4 hours rather than have him on a
But where is the source for this? We would like to know.
It's being developed on both ends.
Everybody will want to hire.
Yeah, so we've got companies like, case in point, there's a company called Gigs near me, which we are working with. Again, the source is not sufficient to meet our needs at this point of time.
And at
but
the
I
cost.
think and maybe the cost and the technology, and it's not putting anybody down or looking at it and saying that, listen, we're not achieving what we want to. But till we don't speak about it, until we don't make an effort towards it, we're never going to get there. So I feel that the effort has begun. The process is in the mind to say this is what we want to achieve, and I feel we're on the track now.
So gig jobs is something that would be interesting to see, but I wish you could get, front office manager for these days. And would you all use it if there is a case like that? If the cost is, and if the cost is, and the cultural fit is there, would you use it?
I don't know if you'll use the front office manager as yet. I think it's more at the grassroots level.
But
don't
at
think
grassroots level you will use?
Yes,
all of
I
you?
think so.
So somebody wants to do a business model, there's an opportunity.
We actually have somebody who we've taken an exception that you will get 2 months of break in the year. Yeah, that's, and always the comparison has been, you give it to one person, what will others guys will also ask for it. But that's the contract we have with the person, and at a reasonably mid management level. We've taken those exceptions, and one needs to really bite that bullet. The hesitation always has been, if I do it for this guy, this next guy will also ask for it, next guy will also ask for it. That's always been the hesitation.
That is the dichotomy, right? So you have such a large population of India, such large joblessness, and everybody is struggling to, find people. So that's Praveen, you want to say something? Yeah.
I have a view on this, Mahesh. This, as we say, call the war of talent or problem with the talent, is not going to go. We all need to, in the industry, work together with it. And it is at every level. And I'll give you some examples. So, at the IHCL, currently, we have kept a target of skilling 100,000 people in the next, 4 to 5 years. We are running programs internally at every level. But the challenge is that, see, 2 years back, 3 years back, when you used to go to catering college, those guys would not get a job as a manager. They train themselves to become a manager, and they would actually join at frontline employees. Today, you don't even get people to join at the front line because people go to a catering college and don't want to come back to you because we are not an industry of choice, because we are not doing enough to provide them either with a career succession planning, or we are not good enough in terms of the kind of salary that they expect. So that's one part which we need to address. So that means today when you deal with a millennial who just come out of the college and he wants to join you, he wants to know what is the 5-year plan that you have set for him. When will he become a manager? What are the kind of enrichments which he will get within the duration of his work? So I think those things need to be addressed very clearly. Second thing is, we all need to focus a lot on catering college, under the catering college, which means the skill centers, because the problem currently that you're facing is mainly in either the frontline employees or you're facing in the little above the mid-level. So what you really need to do is you need to run programs on those multiple levels. So for example, again, we run multiple schools for different business models, right? So there is a school that we run for our J Wellness Spa, which is now almost about 80 spas in India. We run a separate school for AMA, which only prepares people for homestay business. And then these are not people who are traditionally want to go and work in a hotel, right? So you take the local community and you work with them. We have a separate training program. We work for people who are going to come and work in sales and marketing, because that's a very different skill that you can get from anywhere. So you need to broad base this, and this problem is not going to go anywhere unless we all work in a broad base right from the entry level to the top. And then when it comes to your general managers and your HODs, you need to continuously keep training and skilling your people. And again, you need to be the people who are most preferred for them to stay with you.
Yeah, Lokesh.
So apart from the acquisition strategies, what we're also trying to do is sort of improve the desirability quotient that I spoke about earlier. So one of the things we're doing is encouraging the leaders of the hotels. So a lot of the leaders unfortunately come with the mindset that, look, if you're in banquets, 14 hours day is the done deal. That's how it's always been. So we're sort of being perhaps a little prescriptive in some of these things in terms of the number of offs that have to be given. If it is 6 offs a month, we don't want any exceptions. And if there is one, then it has to be made up for with something extra immediately, not something that just sort of gets left saying, well, November, this is traditionally what happens. It's always busy, yada, yada, yada. So that's one of the things. The other thing is that we're keeping a very close watch on things like work hours. So, more than 9 hours, we're getting to a stage where you're actually making life difficult for a manager in case his team is leaving work after 9 hours. So we're starting to put processes in place saying, why did that need to happen? What was the business reason for it? And, how are you going to make sure it doesn't happen again? So trying to put pressure and change the mindset of the entire hotel team, saying, look, these guys need to have a work-life balance. Just because you had it tough doesn't mean that they have to too, because they've got more options. Maybe, that's how we were brought up, saying, look, you have a job, you should be grateful. So if it's 16 hours, so be it. That isn't the case anymore. And the leaders in the hotel need to understand that. And they need to put in place an environment which is conducive for people to come in and work. And of course, salary compensation, that's a whole other piece. Try to get more variable components in so that, if you can't keep everyone, at least make sure your stars are happy through programs, incentives.
At the entry and first level, do we have variable salaries?
So yes, absolutely. By variable, I mean upselling programs, enrollment-related bonuses if you're enrolling people onto the loyalty program. If you're doing extra credits as a room attendant. So finding little opportunities. Maybe it's not for everyone. Obviously, sales has always been on a sort of incentive plan, but trying to get more operational departments also incentivized so that the take-home can go up. And it's not objected to too much by the owners as well, because they see it's productivity linked or it's pay for performance.
We have 5 minutes. We could discuss only one critical challenge. There are 8 more we were supposed to discuss, but I think it's better we spend a little more time on this, because I think that is your biggest problem I think everybody is facing. On the retention bit, if there is something,
Yeah,
engagement, retention bit, if somebody wants
So
to.
if I may, Mahesh, I think I'd like to talk with the D and hopefully leads to the R. The retention, I think what we're doing is, and focusing on grassroots, our colleagues at the front line. 4 key areas: housekeeping, front office, service, and kitchens. We're trying to bring back, we're really going back to basics. We used to have a program in our hotels, which is School of Hospitality. We brought that back, it sounds cliched, but we've actually gone back to a standard operations learning curriculum, going back to a buddy system, a set of things, basics that every colleague on the floor needs to know before they're really working independently, as they were, working with a defined buddy. So it's just absolutely gone back to basics. I think what's changed is hands-on training, guided training, as well as using more online tools. That's really a core focus for us, and driven quite strongly continue to be at the hotels. On the other thing, change which has come in is, and I'm really now moving to the general manager level as we open more hotels, smaller cities, smaller markets. We have colleagues moving from non-operational areas. We've really looked at seeing how do we shorten the period of time by which someone can become a general manager. And there's actually work going on. There's certain pilot hotels globally where we're trailing this at the moment. So that's the other area where is a frontline, of course, but as we expand quite rapidly, the pool of our leaders who can actually run these assets. So that's probably 2 development and hopefully leading retention programs that we're working on.
So I just want to summarize that. Sorry, you want to say something?
Just a small addition, and it's on the retention and developing our talent as well. Within our system, we launched a campaign about a year back called Life on Time within Marriott, and it's to do with 2 parts of it. One is that the associate works the hours that they are supposed to work. So that's the 9-hour shift. The other part of it is that our hotels were designed in a way, or were operated in a way where we would operate few things which didn't make sense from a monetary sense or even a business sense perspective. Case in point, you would have a restaurant or a bar. Because the license is at 11 o'clock in the morning in a particular state, the bar opens at 11, nobody comes there till 6 in the evening, but the bar gets busy at 7 in the evening to 11 at night. So why do you keep the bar open from 11 to 6 in the evening? And again, it's to look at productivity and saying, can we operate a particular area in a particular time, and then have the resources to also work only the time that they're required to. If they work beyond that, they're incentivized or paid for what they've done extra. But essentially, they're discouraged to take on that additional hour. It's a very difficult ask in India, and I think we've embarked on it about a year back. We've piloted it in hotels. We've launched it in all our hotels today. So from HR, I can say 100 hotels in Marriott managed by us, 100% of them have this program running in them. So we made those efforts, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. We need to continue to push this to become a system for us to be able to attract the right talent, for us to be able to be the choice of the youngsters joining hospitality.
So what I'm getting a sense is that I think there is a lot more to be done in this area of HR, from thinking really out of the box to get something going, even at the acquisition end and retention end. How do you skill people faster? How do you get people to like the industry? So much to be done on this, and I think it's a great opportunity if 1 or 2 companies can do something dramatic in this space. We have time to discuss one critical thing. The other thing which you said is what digital stuff is happening. So Praveen, do you want to think about, we will not have time for everybody, so I'm just picking and choosing now what people can learn on what you guys are doing on digital, what 1 or 2 guys are doing on digital, this whole thing that is happening.
So I think digital is becoming a way of life, and it's something which will impact in every stage of business. So even if you look at the way today the customer finds your hotel, so if you go by the classic journey of Google, the way your people find, so it's about dream, explore, book a hotel, stay a hotel, and then of course advocacy. So at every level you will find that digital would start interrupting. And so you might be a great hotel, but if you're not available on the digital, it really is not going to sell. But at the same time, you might be a hotel which probably in the past would take about a year to scale up. Today, if you spend the right amount of money and you know the kind of people that you want to target, you could scale it up in 3 months. So we would see that in terms of distribution, digital will continue to grow. And in fact, we are seeing very good numbers in a company which is 120 years old. The amount of people who are kind of booking us directly now and the way our loyalty program has taken up, we've been able to scale up our loyalty program within just 9 to 10 months. We have a reach of 70 million. So before we got into Tata Neu, our loyalty program only had 2 million people. And this was got over the last 20 years. So within 9 months, our reach has increased to 70 million. So that actually has, you see the digital-led revenues, loyalty-led revenues kind of increase a lot. So that's one part of the game. The other is that I also feel with digital, you'll be able to continue to reach your customers and be able to serve. Now, what we have not seen happening too much in Indian market so far is where the digitization would also take away certain, I would say, interactions. So right from, you would not need room service to kind of have on a phone. You're seeing a lot more chatbots coming in. There are a lot of companies which are working on completely in-stay experience, which would take away 50% of the kind of person-to-person contact. It might not be true for luxury hotels, but at least the upper scale to, I would say, budget hotels, you would see that's going to change the game. And that would also mean you will be able to provide far more efficient service with lesser number of people, which would make the hotels a lot more efficient. And we like it or we don't like it, we'll be embracing it in any case. And then even the same thing will go on with respect to your cost with HLP, the more and more technology coming in. So I see that hotels have a great opportunity because we have older buildings, we are a lot more aged companies. So I think we will have to embrace digital as we move ahead.
Specific examples in the Taj of anything that you can say that can help some guys to learn from a digital perspective that you've done an intervention, it's really done extremely well.
In the Taj, 2-3 key things that we have focused on. One is, as I said, loyalty. I think that's been a game changer for us. And for an Indian company to have a reach of 70 million within 9 to 10 months, I think that's a great example. And we've been able to, the way we market ourselves, the way we reach our people has completely changed. And this is just the beginning. So we are a lot more confident today to scale up our hotels and reach people. So that's one.
Yeah, crashing of time. Crashing of time to market.
Yes, time to market is completely changed. Second thing is we are doing a lot of work with in the ESG space, which actually also sometimes then helps to look at your HLP cost and so on. So that means we're trying to figure out how can we make our hotels a lot more efficient, right, in terms of HLP cost and so on. Now that's a very heavy capex, so but we have started working on it, and that's the second thing that we will focus on. And the third thing is we are also looking at how we can bring in the next level of in-stay technology. In-stay technology, and when you start using technology for in-stay experiences, that again helps you to be more efficient. And that's, I would say, the next 18 months would be focusing on that.
Okay, Gaurav?
Taking on from Praveen, I think in-stay technology is here to stay. It's changing very fast. It's still very expensive in room to be able to make provisions for all this change coming in. But one of the things that I do want to touch upon from Praveen as well is for us, like the Marriott Bonvoy app, which essentially was an app for reservations to begin with. Today, it's an app which is used for a key to check into a room. It's an app which allows you to interact, same as the bot. You can put in service requests. You can.
So in India, I just want to. I've been curious to know this number. In India, how many mobile check-ins do you actually do in India?
So it depends on city to city, right? If you go into a tech-friendly or a business city,
like a Bangalore.
In a Bangalore, you will go into double digits. It's still very low relative to what you would want.
10-12%?
10-12%. But if you look across India, it'll still be in the early single digits. So the Bangalore is on the higher end. It's still just 10%. So if you look at that and the potential of where that can go, that's really huge. But what I was getting to is that the app today has already become an app where you can use it for multiple things, whether it's a reservation, a table reservation, the service request, an in-room dining request to get a pizza to your room, or use it as a key to open the door of your room. Those things have already happened. But it's going to evolve even further.
It's going to evolve because I think what I'm seeing is that it's there, but the usage is so less. Sorry, I had to cut. I think I've got 2 messages from saying that please, we need to close, please. So there are 2 pleases here. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you again for having,
Thank you, Mahesh.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you for a wonderful session to all the speakers. Can we please have a huge round of applause again for all of them? Thank you so much. Moving on to our next session, can I please invite on stage Mr. Philip Grubelnik, a Sales Director, BMW Group India, to give a sneak peek into the world of BMW. Can we have a huge round of applause again, please, for Mr. Philip? Thanks.
Very warm welcome from my side. I wish you all a very nice evening. It's my great pleasure to be here tonight, and I'm honored also to be here. Since decades, BMW has close relationship and great collaboration with hotel chains throughout the world. So it's a huge pleasure to be here tonight. Before I get started, I would like to first of all give you a glimpse of the challenges we also share together with the hotel industry. I heard a lot of disruptors and challenges you face, and they are pretty common with us, and it's mainly about the expectation of the customer that has changed so tremendously throughout the last years in the luxury segment.
You got it now.
So I hope I could give you a little glimpse of the nice product we have also outside. So tonight you can also enjoy at least or explore the inside and the interior and exterior of the car. But I give you also a little bit more information how we probably can support you at one topic that is a focus topic for the BMW Group since decades: sustainability. So first of all, let me start with one thing you're all aware of. I think last August, on the 26th Conference of Parties, the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, has declared a five-fold strategy to bring down carbon emissions. Yeah, so I think it's not only something that we owe to the world, that we are as corporations sustainable, but also something that is driven by politicians, driven by governments. So it's also a responsibility for us to support this strategy. And for BMW, for us, we like to say we don't do sustainability at BMW. For us, it's manifested in our strategy. And we say we make BMW sustainable. And that means from the whole value chain. And when you look back into the history, and that's what I mentioned, since decades we look into this very seriously. Even in 1973, I think we were the first automotive OEM to implement an environmental manager in the group. Yeah? And then the journey started slightly from 2000 onwards, when sustainability became a principle of the BMW Group corporate strategy. Yeah? So we took this always as a big focus topic. And 2001, we started to print and give out the first BMW sustainability report. Yeah? But the journey moved on, and I think some of you might recall in 2007 with efficient dynamics, when we reduced heavily or significantly the CO2 emissions of the engines of our cars, and we called it efficient dynamics because we thought, of course, a BMW needs to provide sheer driving pleasure. It's a dynamic brand. We are a performance-driven brand on the racetrack, but also on the road, and also, of course, in numbers, but we want to be sustainable and we need to be efficient. Yeah? And I'm sure you have all seen in 2013 the launch of the i3, which was our first full electric car, and it differed significantly from our competition because it was the only and the first full recyclable electric vehicle. Yeah? So this car was just not a standard product of BMW where we put a battery in and changed the drivetrain. We built up this whole product on fully sustainable material. That was for us the first approach to show electric mobility can be sustainable from a whole value chain. Yeah? From the materials that we take from the production process on to the drive chain. So from that onwards, the journey started and moved on. In 2020, sustainability was placed at the heart of the BMW Group strategy orientation. So we defined a new strategy for sustainability. In 21, the BMW iVision acted as a pioneer of circular economy, means we look really from the supply chain into the production process. And we have already the second plant now in 2022. We opened up in Debrecen in Hungary, the second plant that creates its energy of fully sustainable resources, wind, water, and solar energy. Yeah? So the whole production process is sustainable there. And in 2025, we will launch the Neue Klasse, we call it. The Neue Klasse will be a new range of products which will show also this full sustainability in a product, from the purchase of the materials and the supply chain up to the back end when the car is on the road. Yeah. When we move on, it's time to change to electric. I think the time is now. We have launched last year as the first OEM in India 3 products, the Mini E, the BMW i4 is a 4-door sedan in the 3 Series segment, I would say, and the iX. The iX is our SUV, our first ever full electric SUV. We call them also SAV, as you can see, because we also say our SUVs have so much driving pleasure that we call them sports activity vehicles. Yeah? And this January only we launched our pinnacle product in that segment with the 7 Series fully electric, we call it the i7. And both of these cars don't offer only a wide range of 425 kilometers with a full battery on the iX and 625 kilometers on the i7, but they are also, and coming to digitalization, state of the art in terms of latest digital offers in the car. I heard also in the panel discussion, your customers also demand digital services throughout. In the i7, I think it's the first car globally launched with a 31.3-inch theater screen in the rear. And I had the pleasure to experience this last weekend myself, yeah, and I can tell you all drives on Indian roads become a pleasure because you're locked off your environment outside, the traffic jams, whatever it is, and you watch your favorite movie, the news, sports, whatever you want, on the rear of a car on the cinema screen. Yeah. And not only that, of course, these cars offer range, they offer digitalization, luxury comfort. They can save you money, and they can make a big contribution to the carbon emission reduction. We just made a simple calculation on the iX, for instance, our SUV that you can see outside, and compared it with a diesel engine. And on 80,000 kilometers of usage in a year, you can save only on fuel cost up to 3 lakhs per car. And even more, I would say, significant is the reduction of CO2, more than 9 metric tons. And this is a lot. Yeah, this really impacts your green footprint. So we have fleet solutions, of course, for hotels. And as I said, the hotel industry for us has always been one of our most important partners. Yeah? And that's why we create special fleet solutions for your properties. From a product perspective, of course, we have the biggest electric profile in India at the moment in the luxury segment. And nowadays, this becomes a crucial part, preferred allocation for hotels. Yeah, I know we are still suffering from logistical issues, semiconductor shortages, you name it, you have all heard it. The automotive industry is suffering a little bit from that angle, and we are not over it yet, but nevertheless, hotels have the priority on allocation. Secondly, whenever we close a hotel fleet deal, we provide one fast charging station free of charge to be fitted at the hotel premise, which is a quick charging station which charges the car in 30 minutes to 80%. Yeah? But also for each unit that you take, we will give you a wall box charger free of charge. We can be also mounted in a hotel area. Yeah. And we do offer, of course, also financial service offers. 360 is a buyback program that we offer, which is from some hotels a very convenient way, because after the tenure of 3, 4 years, 2 years, whatever you choose, you can just return the car and replace them with new ones on very low monthly payouts. Yeah. And we do also offer leasing, of course. Yeah. And we do offer these finance programs also with 100% on road finance, including the service packages. Yeah. So great offers also there for you. Coming to the last slide and of my short presentation, and I hope I didn't bore you too much. Please have a look at the car later and approach us for questions that you have. I have my colleague here, Mohit Gautam, who is also in contact, I think, with many of you already and has all the details that you need. So let's collaborate for this to build a green pasture for safe and sustainable tourism and travels. Thank you so much.
We now move on to the final session of the day, the CEO panel, and where we are talking about driving shareholder value in the new world order. And I start by inviting on stage the moderator of the session, Mr. Jaideep Dang, Managing Director in Hotels and Hospitality Group GLL, Mr. JB Singh, President and CEO Interglobe Hotels, Mr. Mansoor Mehta, Managing Director Suba Group of Hotels, Mr. Sanjay Sethi, Managing Director and CEO of Chalet Hotels, and Mr. Zubeen Saxena, Managing Director and VP Operations South Asia Radisson Hotel Group. Can we please have you on stage?
Ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for coming over and, gracefully sitting through this conversation. When Vibhor called me 2 months ago, and with Hotelier India, Vinodini, the question was that how do we do it? Who should be our guests? What do we do? So we have very carefully curated a very balanced panel. So I've got owner, I've got owner-operator, I've got a real estate company and a hotel building company, and I've got an internationally acclaimed operator. Last year when I was here, Sanjay, I think you were there, JB, you were there. This week, that year, what Vibhor said in his opening remarks, we were kind of wondering, what do we do next? And I'm saying as general managers, as hotel operators, we were emerging out of Omicron. We didn't know how this is going to shape up. And immediately after this week last year, come April, and things started moving up, and how? In 3 months after that, when we met here, the recovery was the sharpest that we would have seen in our lives in our sector. So again, we are back in March with a very, very buoyant year, fast-moving year. We are again at that threshold where we are saying, what's going to happen next? Have we plateaued? Are we on that growth trajectory? The good thing that had happened last year is that all brands, all hotel companies, all partners, vendors came together, collaborated, and the performance was for all of us to see what the industry's achieved. And I must congratulate each and everyone in this room who contributed and beyond. At JLL, we transacted about 800 crores of hotel assets and land parcels in this country last year, between last March and this March. All that happened because of the performance and what you did. So I must congratulate and thank all of you, because we performed well, because the sector performed well, and you gave us the confidence to investors to make such decisions in this sector. So on this note, Sanjay, if I may start with you. It was a stellar performance. You again, I don't know whether you saw it coming, but the way your hotels, and you had, as Chalet Hotels, one of the biggest hotels in the country in terms of inventory, big boxes in very prominent Indian business cities, and it had hit you hard. But then when you came back really, really strong. And look at your results. Fantastic. Bravo. What do you think is going to happen from here, Sanjay? What do your operators, your partners tell you?
Good evening, everyone. A pleasure being here. I think when we were here, Vibhor mentioned a year back, no one really imagined we'll be here a year later. But if you recall our conversation a year back, I'd said we'll come back strong. I was very confident that we'll come back strong. We've always had a tiff with our operators that our budgets are always 50% higher than what they propose. And most times than not, we actually end up meeting our numbers. And I think Gaurav mentioned some 6-7% inflation rate. If we were operating hotels to cover inflation rate, we wouldn't be in this business, I can assure you of that. To address your question specifically going forward, I think there's a lot of headroom and a long runway for city hotels, business traffic-driven hotels to grow, both on the ADR and some on the occupancy side. The foreign business travel is still not back at full speed. That's going to come back very soon. I think I saw the numbers for February, and airline traffic is back at 98% now. So it's getting there very quickly. So I think that's going to be the driving force, the foreign business travel coming into India. So big city business hotels, long runway for growth. Leisure has had a beautiful run for the last couple of years. Will it plateau? I don't think so. I think it'll continue to grow. Will it grow at the same pace as it did in the previous years? Unlikely. But the growth will be there for leisure hotels also.
Perfect. So we are looking at growth in both markets. Business perhaps will be more sustainable in your view. Leisure's seen the best, so maybe the percentage of growth could be leaner.
No, the reason I'm saying that is leisure's already had a beautiful run, right? So the ramp up has been very sharp. Business has grown with a sharp ramp up, but for a shorter period. So the length of runway that's available to business hotels is a little longer than it is there for the leisure hotels. Both will continue to grow, don't get me wrong. I think both have a great future.
Very well.
We just invested in a leisure hotel.
Yes.
I can't be saying otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd actually come to you on that. JB, there have been fundamental changes to demand pattern. Just picking what Sanjay said from there. And you've been, like Chalet, you've largely been in business cities addressing corporate travel, different segments though. What are the changes, fundamental changes that you've seen emerging as demand patterns in the last 1 year? Are there any different from what you were sort of basing your development thesis pre-COVID, or is it changing?
I actually echo what Sanjay said, and we see demand coming strongly in our portfolio. I think over 2019, we are at almost about a 35% plus on RevPAR already and beating budgets. Is this going to continue to stay? Of course. Demand patterns ultimately echo how the economy is doing. All economies work on a multiplier to a particular sector. Travel, tourism gets pegged at about 1.5 to 2.25. If we continue to grow at 5% or 6%, even if next year is a bit muted because of various global headwinds, we'll still clock almost a 14 to a 12 to 14% growth in the sector. Patterns, per capita at 2,100, climbing to 35 over the next 5 years. We'll see more FIT traffic. We are experiencing that. So the segment has changed there. Jaideep is almost 60, 65% and climbing. It's a sector we love. Of course, distribution costs go up. So we'll see a lot of that. As far as we are concerned, we still believe in going into markets where there's clear and present demand, and we densify our footprint. So rather than building a network across the country, even though we are in 14 cities, we do believe that if we continue to go into strong cities and the whole urbanization macro trend, which means cities are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger,
We just go and just keep pounding those cities and keep setting up a strong footprint. Brings your cost down, puts the brand up, and it allows you to sort of dig into clear and present demand. So strong FIT, individual retail traffic coming along, far better yields. COVID also, and you all did a fantastic job operating hotels, doing a lot of, sort of role enhancements and role enrichments and clustering and so on, which means as sort of revenues grow, ARRs grow, margins will be significantly better. The ratios are far better than they were pre-COVID. So it's lots of runs on the board, on the margin side, and on the growth side, and on the segment side.
The good news. Zubin, Radisson celebrates 25 years in India. A trivia, ladies and gentlemen, JLL also celebrates 25 years in India. So
we need to do it together. We need to throw a party together.
Yes, so that's why we are at the extreme end. Yeah, we entered the country at the same time. And I think Radisson also had a great run last year, but we had our best run last year. It was the best result for us yet. So it was great 25th year for us, or 24th year for us. Zubin, now that you've been here in 25 years, and Radisson, as the way all of us see, is very global brand, but also in a way very Indian brand. And, you've been front runners in many markets in the country when it comes to the best hotel of that town or the best show of that particular micro market from years. Where do you see this growth? Is it for you more towards tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns? Are you taking it to that level consciously? And this has implications on many things that our previous panel also discussed in terms of labor pool, in terms of employment, in terms of so many things in those economies? Or are you going to continue to focus on the tier 1 busy cities, suburban markets?
JD, thanks for the question. And first and foremost, good evening, everyone in the audience, on the panel. Nice to be here. So, we have today 110 hotels, and we are operating in about 62 markets across India. And half of those markets, or I would say half of our portfolio, tends to be in tier 2 and tier 3 markets. So that's our current distribution. Now, if you ask me what is your strategy going forward, I would say the strategy going forward is very simple. We want to go in markets where there is a sustainable long-term demand story, right? And we've been first movers for as far as I can remember. We had the first hotel in Ranchi, in Nagpur, in Indore, in Guwahati, in Gorakhpur, and I can go on and on and on. And if you look back now, 10, 15 years down the line, all those hotels have become part of the social fabric of those cities. So for instance, in Indore, the crossing where the hotel is located is called Radisson Chowk. Mahipalpur, which is Delhi airport, the circle around which the hotel is located is called Radisson Circle, right? So on and so forth. And we went into those markets when, by the way, the infrastructure wasn't very strong. There was hardly any airports. There was hardly any roadways. And we took, at that point, and rightly so, when hindsight being 20/20, the right decision to make the market entry. And now we have, as a matter of fact, we are seeing many of those hotels in our tier 2 and tier 3 markets undergoing expansions. So our Guwahati hotel is adding another 80 rooms. Our Ranchi hotel is adding another block. So it's a long-winded story, but I want to answer your question, and I go about it in a kind of a convoluted manner for a reason. What is our strategy? Our strategy is that we want to go from 60 plus markets today to 120 markets. And I think that that is possible. We've just done a very large tie-up for 150 hotels with Ruptub, who will be growing one of our mid-market brands. And by the way, they today are exactly in double the number of markets we are in. We are in 62, they are in 124 markets. And running a very successful enterprise. So so we see India to be in a very long sunrise. We see the next 20, 25 years and going the way many of us travel and are on the road most of the time. The way I see it, having traveled, by road quite a lot, I see the whole of India or most of it being one huge construction site. There is just a lot of work happening with regards to highways, roadways, airports, and all of that is going to be good for hotel demand. So long and short of it is we are very bullish. There are reasons to be so. We have empirical evidence to be bullish, and our strategy is to go from 60 plus markets. I wouldn't say 120, but yes, a reasonably larger number. That being said, and that's the last point I want to make here for this question, we will always go into markets where we are convinced that there is owner ROI. And we as a brand have succeeded so far because it is not a question of, like Sanjay said, there's a delta between the operator budget and the owner budget. We like to take on the mantle of running the hotels like owners. So we have very much an owner mindset. And to that end, again, 50-50 managed franchises our portfolio, but we see a lot of our franchise hotels converting into managed. And we are not averse to either, by the way. But that just demonstrates the philosophy that we have as a group. So thank you. Back to you.
Yeah, sure. No, you've actually addressed a few things in that one answer. Thank you for that. I move on to Mansoor Bhai. I fondly call him Mansoor Bhai. Met him 5 years ago. There's a charming story behind it. He's into one of the biggest players of logistics in this country. Has a big network of cold storages, a fleet of trucks. And when I met him, I said, Mansoor Bhai, aap hotel bhi karte hain? It's like that Tata ad that it used to say, ispat bhi hum banate hain. They use so many things. So Mansoor Bhai is a bit like that. So he does many things. And then I asked him, acha, aap hotel bhi karte hain? Mujhe malum nahi tha. Which was 5 years ago, Mansoor Bhai. And then we made a plan, a strategy. Pata nahi wo pass hui ke fail hui, but eventually last year you did the biggest transaction in an OpCo space that we saw. Mansoor Bhai's company took over Choice's master franchisee in this country, and Choice decided to move its OpCo business and give it to a third party, and Mansoor Bhai took it over. So jo Zubin ne kaha, about the country, the prospects, I think you believed in that, and that's why you took that decision. And I know you've been doing many other things as well. Aur us pe bhi main aage aaunga, but if you can just tell people what was in your mind when you took this call and surprised all of us.
Good, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So the story was very simple, Jadip. The strategy was very simple. It took about 12 to 13 years to build our own 18 properties across India. So we had two strong brands, Suba and Click. So we have, what came into our mind was very simple, that either we spend 10, 20 or more 30 years to build our own local brand, or we piggy bank on the brands which are available. And fortunately, we got that chance and we took it. So there is one part to answer your question. The second is that I am a firm believer that India's growth is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So I'm a firm believer that, the next growth story of India, wherever you go, like so you said that, they're going from 60 markets to 120 markets. Where are these 60 markets coming from? These 60 markets are all tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4 cities. So when we go to these cities, the length of stay of the guest is longer, the expectations are less, the manpower is quite reasonable according to the metro cities. So my vision is very clear that we want to grow, we are also very bullish about it, but our growth will be more towards tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And to add to echo about the demand, what you said, I think one more demand sector, what everybody should realize is the religious tourism. See, the amount of religious tourism flowing, just recently there was a big report about the religious tourism, one of the leading magazines. So that also is a very big place, a very big market, and I'm sure people will travel more in the coming days. And good days, I'm looking ahead for a good days ahead, inshallah.
Yes, good days ahead. Thank you, Mansoor Bhai. That's interesting to know and encouraging that, people from other businesses who are looking at this sector. Well, Mansoor Bhai belonged to this business in a way, as he said, but he sort of scaled it up to that level and further scaling up. So, which is good news. That means we are doing something right as a sector. Sanjay, you've developed most of your hotels, right? So it's greenfield, build hotels, big hotels. You're at a frontier spot when it comes to people like us. When we go to investors, the first question is what is our underwriting in terms of numbers, in terms of whether this makes sense as an investor to do it here on this land parcel, and then how big a hotel, what do we need to do, and then all other software and people-related things come into play. But before that is, your thesis on that investment. So if I may ask you, what is that one thing, Sanjay, that you keep in mind, in terms of when you take a development decision that I need to do it here? And then, is there anything else that one needs to look at to improve that yield on investment? If you were to sort of enlighten the people in terms of your development thesis, Sanjay.
I wish I could enlighten people, but yeah, I can share with you how we look at the business. Jaideep mentioned that we build most of the hotels ground up, to the extent that Jaideep categorized me in the developer builder category when he introduced the panel. We also operate 3 of our hotels. So we do have some operating play. I've been a hotelier operator for many years, 11 years as a general manager, like many in the room over here. So I've operated hotels.
What
but
a
yeah,
journey.
What
a journey.
It's been an interesting journey. I didn't make it through any of the campus interviews, by the way. Quickly coming back to your question, look, we've got a few set criteria that we look at. One, of course, is this whole strategy piece that we develop and change as and when required, which markets we want to be in, what sort of categories we want to be in. So that's the basic framework that we work with. And then there's the whole return criteria that comes into play, which is basically what sort of returns you would need to justify the investment. You got to remember that money is fungible. It can go anywhere. So if you have a potential hotel owner, and if he or she gets a certain percentage return on the hotel investment, which is lower than when they can invest in another industry, they will go to the other industry, right? So you're not competing with other brands only when hotel brands are pitching for hotel assets. You're actually competing against many industries, because that hotel investor is going to invest in the hotels, provided you give him or her returns at par or higher than anywhere else they can invest that in. And the options are multiple, right? If you look at historically, a lot of the large hotel companies in the country have delivered return on capital employed at 2.5%, 3.5%. That's less than the saving bank rate. Just not acceptable, right? I would rather put money in my saving bank account than to invest in hotels, if that's the sort of return we're going to get. So it has to be return driven. And when I say return driven, it's a very easy calculation. It's a weighted average cost of capital, which is a mix of cost of equity and cost of debt. And depending on the ratio that you have equity and debt at, you get the weighted average cost of capital. And it has to be comfortably above the weighted average cost of capital, because you can't earn just your cost of capital. You have to earn significantly higher than cost of capital for it to make any sense to invest in the business. So that's one. And internally, what we have, I'm happy to share that because we're public about it, that we look at least 20% IRR on a project basis, and on an equity basis in the mid to high teens. And all our projects meet that criteria so far. Maybe we're spoiled by our own performance to a certain extent, and that's probably the reason we've not been able to acquire more. We have the bandwidth to acquire more, we have the management time to acquire more, we have the financial strength to acquire more, but there aren't enough assets that can give us returns which match the existing portfolio. And that's probably been a pain point to some extent for us. So that's the trick. How to improve the asset? Look, we've always acquired assets that could be improved. If you look at the last 2 acquisitions in the hotel in Pune, there was an opportunity of adding 88 rooms. and of course, improving operating efficiencies. That hotel has turned around like we expected, in fact, slightly better than we expected in terms of operating efficiencies. The EBITDA margins are significantly higher. The other one that we've recently acquired, in fact, as late as Friday of last week, was the Duke's Retreat, which again has an upside of 60% capacity addition and a serious amount of play in terms of upgrading the product and therefore taking the ADRs to maybe about 80 to 90% higher than where they are right now. So these are the things that we'd look at from an investment perspective.
Really, congratulations on the last one, the latest one. And I must tell you that because of your discipline on return on capital employed, we have become very prudent when we bring something to you. So we know that, I mean, it has to make jolly good sense on capital. Only then you will take that decision. That's the reason why you see the models are set right, then they are run right. JB, coming to you. See, last year we saw a record-breaking number of hotel openings. More than 115 hotels, about 10,000 keys opened in last year. Now, few were basically also not, I mean, last 2 years prior to that, we didn't see anything, but so there were a few buses coming together on the bus stop. But apart from that, it's a huge inventory and a good number of hotels that opened last year. And I must congratulate JB for those 2 lovely hotels that you've opened, the Ibises in Bombay. One I had the privilege to see. The second, Harmeet went, I couldn't. But he tells me that it's fantastic, so congratulations on that. What is more in the pipe? Yeah. Yeah, it was all scripted, isn't it, guys? Yeah.
That's the Mumbai team. Yeah, actually through COVID, obviously, like all of us in the room, we were obviously focused on the operating side, but also on the development side. So we kept all the buildings, we continued to build wherever we could. And so we actually, moment COVID sort of waned a bit, we opened Hebbal in Bangalore. And no, we first opened Rick Raleigh, then we opened Hebbal. A couple of weeks ago, 10 days or so, 15 days ago, we opened Thane. We also started one in Kalina, 207 rooms. We started that sometime, I think, in October, November. We should finish that by the end of next year, I think. We just did a whole design conversation this morning, so that's moving fast. We are opening Goa, Vagator, in July, I think, is what I heard this morning, July, August. We've got a Novotel build-out running in Bangalore. So there's a lot happening, lots of openings, new builds. Going forward, like I said, we will continue to look at densification. So we've pretty clearly identified our markets. We don't want to go beyond that unless we see something really specific. I think 7 or 8 markets where we are there with 5 hotels, 6 hotels. We'll probably take it to 8, 9, 10. We sort of move in that direction. Within the organization, we have build capabilities, options to build more. Like in Vikhroli, for example, we've got space there to build another 200 rooms. So at some point in the very near future, we'll probably take that off. As a company, we've got lots of real estate sitting around Delhi and some of the other cities. So we are evaluating that. And obviously, like all of us in development business, and to echo Sanjay's thoughts, just keep looking at options that give us the right return on capital and so on. So yeah, so I think it's going to continue to be busy. We've got solid build capabilities within the company now. I mean, in a heartbeat, we can run 8 builds simultaneously.
Wow.
I mean, that's the capability we have. And in a heartbeat. I mean, we don't, it won't be, everybody will go home at 5 in the evening and so on. So there's going to be no panic. So that's the capability that sits on the operating side. JV partners, I mean, there was a time, I remember 8, 9 years ago, there was such a big thing about starting a new hotel and handovers, takeovers, simulation. I mean, these we don't even get to know, and it's all done. And you just sort of walk in and walk out. So it works well.
Yeah, it's a good process and good people behind that process. So taking it to people, Zubin, and I know you're always, it's close to your heart. We've had these conversations, off the stage as well, many times. And I've seen the way we've kind of run this function and improved the quality of people who are running the show, and hence the quality of hotels that you're running have improved over the last few years, which is great news. So we were all jolted, and I know Lord was talked about this in the previous panel, but as a leader, as a CEO of this business, which is heavily dependent on people, were you jolted as well, I'm sure, but what is that, how are you addressing that moving forward so that such jolts do not kind of shake us up the way they have in the past, in terms of people?
Yeah. No, thanks, JD. It's a very important question that we need to answer for ourselves. We are 110 hotels today. We have 50 in the pipe, and then another 150 coming, and then we are growing. So we are going to go from about 14,000 employees today to about 20,000 employees in the next 4 years. I think that's a big gap which needs to be filled. So our conclusion has been a profound one, and we spoke about ADR in the previous session, which is acquire, develop, and retain. We've realized that ADR, from our perspective, isn't good enough. So we've added an IDP to it, which means internal development of people or internal development of talent. So what we've done is that we have, first and foremost, really started focusing on internal talent movements within the company. And 70% of our general manager placements are actually happening internally. And it comes through a very intense process of selection. So we have a very scientific way of working, which we call as the Center of Excellence. And we are pretty much ranking and evaluating all of our general managers and leaders at all of our hotels on a monthly basis throughout the year. And this is based on performance evaluation across almost 13 KPIs for managed hotels and about 9 or 10 KPIs for our franchise hotels. The one distinction which we decided to make, decided not to make, let me correct that, is we don't differentiate between managed and franchise general managers. To the guest who's entering into the hotel, he's entering into a Radisson hotel. So the level of services have to be the same. The way the hotel operates and communicates with the guest has to be the same. And what that means is that we have a seamless movement of our top general managers, because now everybody is ranked, and and we release those rankings annually. Everybody can, all general managers, top leaders can move between our managed and franchise hotels, right? So what it means is that it doubles the number of opportunities for the portfolio, right? And the general managers can start from, let's say, a small managed hotel, move into a larger franchise hotel, and then move back into a managed hotel. So what essentially we are doing is, at a local level, creating not opportunities with specific hotels or specific assignments. We are creating now opportunities with the brand, right? So that's step one. That's India, right? Now we've decided to take this a step further, right? And we have a dedicated global talent program. So all of our top ranked Center of Excellence general managers, we are looking at making India the global talent export hub for RAG. So all of our, because we have a scientific system, it is not about, just putting talent in arbitrary locations based on how you think somebody would perform. Everyone is, like I said, scientifically evaluated. And then the top general managers, let's say the top 10%, we are already working on moving them into global assignments. One, I think it's clearly our strategy out of India. We want to make it a global talent hub, like I said. And I think there's also a little bit of an element of pride here. We want to see brand India shining across the world, right? So that's the RG story. And the other thing is, again, two more things I'd like to say. We haven't made it easy for talent to enter into the RG system now. Any general manager or any leader who's coming into the company goes through at least 8 or 10 rounds of interactions. And I call them interactions, not interviews, for two reasons, right? First, there is a good 360 that happens. And secondly, once you go through 8 or 10 rounds of discussions or interactions, we believe that it's as much our interview, RG, across the various stakeholders, as it is the general managers. So, there has to be good chemistry which comes through in the 8 or 10 rounds of interactions. And once you know that, you have a good intellectual chemistry happening, as well as the professional chemistry happening, then you know that that talent will perhaps stay with you for much longer, and you can invest in them and grow in them. So we see our talent retention rates to be extremely high. We see our talent growth rates to be extremely high. And, that's the way we will continue to grow this, right? So I wouldn't call it cherry picking, but for a deliberate reason, we have made the hurdle a little steep for new talent to enter into the company. And once they are here, then I think as a brand, as a company, it's our responsibility. It's not about being a manager or a franchise GM, or, it's about being a professional who can, from India, move on to become, take on a global assignment. So that's really our way of working. It's more a philosophy. But we have executed this now for the last 4 or 5 years. So there are tangible results behind this, and there are many growth stories and stars in this room from our portfolio right here in this room. Thank you.
Great. Mansoor bhai, taking a cue from what Zubin said, and I know you're in tier 2 markets, you're industrial towns. How difficult is it to, A, find talent to run your businesses there, and 2, to skill them in that side and not to lose them? Because once you skill them, then they go to, let's say, bigger cities, better hotels, or environments. How do you manage that? It's a very fine line. That's question number 1. Second is, again, I'm taking something what Sharad Puri said in the previous panel. We're only looking at the pool that we have, in talent. Can we not look at it from outside that pool? People who are graduating from engineering colleges in those small cities. You have other businesses. So do you see kahin na kahin jaake koi cross functioning ho, kuch cross training ho from one business to another to get those people into your hotel business? So ye do sawal hain distinctive.
So to answer the first question is actually retaining people is a continuous affair, continuous job. Like sir said, they have an accelerated development program. We also have all these programs with us. But first of all, to find talent is difficult, and to retain them is more difficult. You have all sorts of programs. People it is very difficult again to keep them attached to us in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. They obviously find, but you need to have your own ways and means. You give them all the proper facilities. They don't miss the city life. You give them all sorts of facilities. So people tend to stick to us. So the attrition ratio, fortunately for us, is very little compared to what I hear from the industry. And to answer your second question, there is people from hotel industry like to be in the same industry. They don't like to switch to any other business, or the cross-functioning doesn't happen over here. But again, the challenge again is to make sure that people stick to you. Because the guest experience and all these things come when the people are regular guest comes in. So there should be the familiar faces are there, people feel more at home. But the challenge is there, and the smaller the city, the bigger the challenge. So we have to live with it. There is no shortcut to it. We have to live with
Inversely
it.
proportional.
Yeah, so we have to live with it.
Okay, interesting. Sanjay, I'm just flipping the, or changing the subject here a bit. And again, from a CEO's lens, and how do you see moving forward in terms of business? I know you addressed this early on, but in terms of foreign travel coming in, do you see any global headwinds that we keep talking? Do you see any ripple effect on your hotels yet? And what do your, let's say, operators tell you in terms of your business planning? Should we keep a vigilant eye on that? What's happening around the world?
Jaideep, I don't think we've seen any visible impact on the business as yet. However, the threat is real. And I think keeping an eye on the way things pan out is very important. In fact, just this morning, Rajneesh, me, and a couple of our colleagues were having a conversation that the global headwinds due to the financial sector crisis and the recent news on the COVID is something that we should at least be aware of for any decision that we take from here onwards, right? Any major cost commitments, we should think them through before we implement them. I think the next 3-4 weeks are critical. And frankly, I would like to watch these 3-4 weeks before we make any major asset improvement decisions or give go-aheads on asset improvement decisions. So some of them are critical, we'll go ahead with that. But anything that we can defer till next 3 or 4 weeks pass, we'd like to wait and watch.
Sure. So be careful, be vigilant. JB, you're in both sides of business, aviation, hotels, always impacted with whatever is happening outside India, right? And you're actually present in all frontline markets in major locations. It get impacted very soon when business hits. Are you, as a business group also kind of keeping an eye, looking at it? Have you started feeling it, or it's just people like us looking at it differently?
I think one has to keep an eye, have a 360-degree view. We are fundamentally short, medium, and long-term very bullish in India across our businesses, whether it's aviation, you must have read fresh orders, whether it's hospitality, whether it's the tech side of the business. You just got into logistics. I heard you were in logistics, so we can talk about it. We put a joint venture out there. We are investing heavily there now. So we are very bullish in that. But I think what 2 years has taught us is you need to be a bit careful. You just need to make sure you are watching all trajectories of all possible eventualities without being pessimistic, so you know how deep it can go. That's the first thing we did. I'm sure all of us did. It was in December 2019, we did a zero revenue budget and what we would do to contain it. It's not as drastic as that, but we like to watch those trend lines. So you're watching 4 or 5 trend lines all the time. I think COVID's taught everyone that, which is a good thing to do, because it's not about looking at the bottom end of the barrel. It's also talking about how high you can go and how much you can push. One of the things it's been on my mind, so I have to just share it with all of you, the question you asked about changing trends. Late bookings, 60% of our bookings are coming 3 days minus. Massive revenue opportunity. Our revenue teams are always getting flogged if they could push the revenue a bit more. So these are also happening. So no visible impact. We are watching, but at the same time, even if we look at what the banks are saying in terms of inflation, have we topped out on inflation? Interest rates, have we topped out there? There is 1.6 trillion what has been spent on the war and counting. It will have an impact somewhere. But the Indian demand is still solid. So domestic demand is solid. GDP is growing. All sectors are growing. Manufacturing is growing massively. Almost $40 billion of subsidies have been allocated to manufacturing, which will continue to grow. We will hit the 5 trillion is what analysts say. So that ride from 3 to 5 is going to be quite heady. So max out on your revenues, charge what is rightful to give the right returns, as Sanjay says. I think the opportunities are there. So be cautious, but keep pushing for the big prize out there. You'll get it.
Yeah, well said, JB. Zubin, you're in a regional role. You're also handling Asia Pacific. Congratulations on your enhanced role, first of all. And now that you're in that hot seat, you see it, what is happening around as well. How do your global bosses look at things when it comes, to India? What we've seen is that at least last year when the interest rates were rising in Europe and all that turbulence that we were seeing, at least in our businesses too, and also in leasing businesses, at least the bosses in JLL and the headquarters, they saw India as an opportunity and a potential market. Is this a similar sort of thinking that the headquarters think from an India perspective?
Yeah, thanks, JD. So India is seen as a big growth market, but it's I would say that there are two sides to this story, right? I think everybody, including us, we are a little dazzled by how successfully India so far has shown counter-cyclical trends. When Europe and the US are actually facing a lot of economic headwinds, we, out of our own domestic consumption story, have managed to retain a good strength and a good, revenue cycle in our hotels. So I think the view is that India is a long-term growth story, right? Now that being said, with those kind of growth opportunities, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will result in big boxes everywhere. Because many of those cities are not going to be able to take 300-400 room hotels or even 200 room hotels, right? So, long story short, India for us is a big opportunity. I think India is focused. India is being seen as the global talent hub right now. The India story is shining, and that's how it's going to be for us. Yeah.
Thanks. Again, a different subject, and Sanjay, again, starting with you. ESG, sustainability, is always high on agenda. We as a sector are perhaps last on the pecking order when it comes to real estate development as energy consumers, right? So, and I know there are areas that you've started addressing. So would you just let us know as to what do you think on ESG and the initiatives, and how do you make this operational shift functional?
Sure. So Jaideep, I think everyone's focusing on the environment part of the ESG as the majority time that we spend on it, right? Mm-hmm. Social and governance is something that all of us focus on, but maybe given the climate goals, I think this is important for us to focus on environment, because that's an emergency right now. It's a climate emergency. It's real. So as far as Chalet is concerned, we are driven by the 3 commitments that we made to the climate group, which is 100% electric vehicles by 2025, energy productivity, which is doubling our energy productivity in the next few years, by 2031, 100% renewable energy. We are already at about 79–80% of our energy comes from renewable energy. That's one. Second is the net zero goal that we're working on. And the third one is the waste management, which is critical, especially plastic. On all these fronts, I think the industry in India, at least, has not focused enough. Our goals are not stiff enough. Everyone's doing their bit, but we're looking at it with very myopic eyes right now. We need to look at the bigger picture. There's a lot more that can be done. We can't set targets of 30%, 40% green energy in the next few years. We don't have the leeway for doing that. we've got to head to 100% green energy. And there are challenges. There are policy-related challenges that we need to work on as an industry. For example, some states do not allow third-party power procurement. And the states don't give green power. So you're stuck in a catch-22 situation. But that has to be driven through policy and advocacy. And I think that's something that we as CEOs need to fight hard with the governments, state governments over there, to get that in place. So we are driven by our climate goals. We are driven by our focus on net zero. We are in the final stages of Scope 2 part in the net zero initiative of ours. And we've worked very hard on the, on the waste management side. I think that's where we're focused on. On the social part, we're working on 2 or 3 initiatives. One is employment, creating employment for people who can't afford to create employment for themselves. And I think the second one that we're focusing very hard, which is very close to my heart, is the gender diversity issue. So that's an area that we are working again very hard on. Governance, Chalet is known for great governance. At its board, 4 out of our 7 directors are independent directors. The board's actually chaired by an independent director. The promoters don't take the chair. And I think all that sort of defines or sets the tone for the governance part of the business.
Fantastic.
So I think ESG is very close, but if I were to ask the panel, I mean, if you bifurcate ESG into environmental sustainability and governance, for each of the panelists, which is really the scary part in India?
No, if I may take a punt on that.
For sure.
And that's my view. It's a difficult question to answer, by the way.
No,
so
I just want to
say which is the scariest part.
Which is the pain point for India, especially from hospitality? Is it the E or the S or the G?
No, I think we can't say one more than the other. But I'll tell you the way I look at it and my lens is that it's not about us handing a legacy over to our next generation, and saying this is how tomorrow is going to look like you. I think we are borrowing the tomorrow from them today, right? So it's a responsibility more than anything else. So I think what concerns me is, as an individual, first and foremost, and then of course, as a professional after that, is clearly what are we doing for the environment? I mean, a lot of these things that we're talking about today, may not actually see 40, 50 years down the road if the global weather patterns change. I don't think there's, at this point in time, honestly, there's much we can do except, have a debate around it and express our concern. I think the train's past that station. If I was to be an absolute, sorry to use the word pessimist in this situation, but the fact is that we need to do something today. And I'm glad the generation of tomorrow is already talking about ACs not going below 24 degrees. That is relevant. I don't know if it's too little, too late. But personally, I think that to me is, of the 3, a bigger concern at this point in time. Thank you.
So with your permission, so E is sorted. Sanjay, for you?
I think climate is the emergency and therefore needs immediate focus. Social is India's challenge, and as a country, I think we need to do something about it. But as far as climate is concerned, I believe that it's time for global statements. Global announcements is over. You need specific actions, and not enough of that is happening.
Sustainability goals, you can set it and you can achieve. Well said, sir. Mazur Bhai.
Sir, according to me, I think the most scary part is waste management. That could be more scary. Climate, like sir said, everybody is attending climate. And second is gender equality. Because all the companies have got set up aggressive targets to have 21% share or that, but I think we are much too far away from that. So gender equality and waste management are the 2 scary things I think that will take about.
I think for me it's governance. And, we've got fantastic laws. We've got laws for everything and quite mature laws. If you see our policy and so on, they need work, but it's all there. It's all articulated. There are no blind spots, but we just can't govern it. I mean, you go out there trying to buy brownfields, you can't because they're just not compliant because they've slipped through the governance crack. We need to get governance sorted. And I think that's a big, big threat. And we need to get that sorted.
So on extreme right, I think EE and a bit of sustainability, governance, and Jaideep, your 2 cents.
Environment.
Awesome. Give them a hand. I think there's a lot of consensus there. And I think from a media perspective, I look at sustainability is obviously you can set your standards, you can achieve it. And a country which is so conscious in terms of maybe the way we've been brought up as a family, as a unit, and corporates and society, I think sustainability is closer to our hearts. Over to you, Jaideep. I just thought I'll just get in there.
No, thank you. That was very helpful and I think very important. I'm just coming towards the end of this show, and Mansoor Bhai, to you, because the way I see it, you're our champion of this business, because see, all of us otherwise have been in this business for a while, developing it, running it. Sanjay's been operating it and now building it. Zuman's there. For you, you've come, to take up this mandate, to take this business into various tier 2, tier 3 towns. You've also acquired operating businesses, and acquiring an OpCo is not an easy job. It's a difficult business to be in. Do you see mergers between OpCos happening? You've taken 1, you've taken 2, you've taken 3. What is the plan, and what do you think is going to happen?
It's like this, that the benchmarks have already been set by the people who have already done the mergers earlier before us. But I think now that since the benchmark has been set, now things will get consolidated. Because now the strength is going to be in the volume, strengths are going to be more into like how you can do work jointly. So I think now smaller brands, who are specifically regional brands, they will all come together, and the consolidation is definitely going to happen over a period of time. And it's good for the business, it's good for the market, it's good for the industry as well, that people who have been working hard, they have made companies, so it's better that they get valuation and get merged together, and they can have a bigger picture for all of us.
Great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the train was running late. We ensured that we just speed it up a bit. I promise you that we covered the whole syllabus. We did. No, we did, actually. You can check. We covered the whole syllabus. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being very precise, succinct, as always.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dang and all the speakers. Now I would like to invite Mr. Vibhor Srivastava for something special that he wants to share.
Listen, I think we need a huge round of applause for this panel. Louder, please. These people are really the leaders, and they are really the heroes, and all the lovely general managers, and I think of, whole segment of industry is here today. You've been a lovely audience, and I want next to me, this wonderful man is a very quiet man, but amazing, talented person. Tonight, they have spread the food layout. I don't understand much food, let me confess. Without taking much of your time, may I invite the culinary director, Chef Paul Kinney, and he is really, I love him, I like him. How much we love you, Chef. Come, please speak, and what you have for the guests tonight. Come, Chef. He's a bit shy, so come. I'm next to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Kinney. I'm the Director of Culinary at the St. Regis, Mumbai. First of all, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Hotel India, for organizing this wonderful session. And I want to thank each one of you for coming here. Okay. I want to invite each one of you to indulge in our distinctive cuisines from the venues at the best address. For the first time, also enjoy koishi out of his comfort zone from the restaurant. We are presenting koishi out for you. Especially, I want you to experience a walk-around dessert counter which we laid out, which is conceptualized around different hues and textures. So do enjoy the curations by the culinary team of the St. Regis, Mumbai. Thank you.
और जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं, आप तालियों में कभी कमी मत रखिए. So don't be conservative. Give it for this man. Chef, thank you. I think they've laid their hearts out, and the proof of the pudding is that when you go and experience it. And let me just get my lovely editor, another quiet but strong and very consolidated woman, Vinodni Rao, for you, the editor for Hotelier India. Come, Vinodni.
Thanks, Vibhor. Very good evening, everybody, and a lot to learn from today. I'm sure all of you would agree on this. A lot to learn from the veterans in the industry, especially. A hotel GM is that guiding star the entire hotel looks up to for motivation, for inspiration, and for practically everything. So all you hotel GMs here, a big thank you for coming here and for being who you all are and for keeping your hotels standing strong, basically. A big thank you to our eminent speakers and our wonderful moderators for taking the time out and gracing this occasion and making this event a huge success. We as a magazine are very passionate about hospitality industry, and this GM Summit is our little labor of love. And thanks to all the team out here, the Hotelier India team, for putting up this great show. And thanks to our title partners and our sponsors, because without you all, this show wouldn't have been possible. Jaideep rightly said, you know, on our last cover, the hospitality industry is now more resilient than ever before. I mean, he couldn't have said it better. This is what we really feel. So on that note, since the hospitality industry is booming than ever before, I would like to say more power to all of us here. And we look forward to more such rocking GM events. And finally, a big thank you to very enterprising, our very passionate managing director, Mr. Vibhor Srivastava, of course. And his energy is infectious, absolutely infectious. It's because of him, you know, his brands are flying.
I'm sorry to grab, you know, because I've got very strong ladies working with me. And please give my ITP team Shalu, you know, the conference producer, Sheetal, the commercial director, Amrita on backstage, Shivali, our digital head, Johnson, Nigel, and lots of all our staff. I don't want to miss anybody of you. And I think it's been a one cohesive force working together, you know, hard and fast to make sure that we give a great evening to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always been a pleasure to have you. We look forward to our North edition very soon. And thank you for believing in us and helping us to scale day in, day out. And thank you, lovely St. Regis Hotel, Varun Chibbar, and everybody in Marriott for believing in us and holding this together for us. Thank you.